So, is Labour really stopping Britain from ending the Gaza genocide? How important is our contribution? The major contributors of arms to Israel are the United States and Germany. The United Kingdom's contribution was less than 1%, and this has reduced significantly. With the Labour government suspending all licences they have identified as contributing to the Gaza conflict, all that remains of the United Kingdom's contribution is our supply of parts for F-35 Lightning fighter jet to the international manufacturing process. This amounts to 15% of each aircraft. Critics have complained that this is an unacceptable loophole in our sanctions against Israel regarding Gaza. However, in June 2025, the UK High Court ruled that the government's decision to continue allowing British-made F-35 fighter jet components to be exported to Israel is lawful, rejecting a challenge by human rights groups. The court determined that interrupting the supply of these parts to a global, US-managed pool would severely damage international security, and NATO deeming the decision a non-justiciable matter of foreign policy. With regards to the left's apparent obsession with how Labour are approaching the Gaza crisis, as has just been explained, our arms contribution, already almost negligible, has been further reduced by licence suspensions. The only continuing supply is a small volume of F-35 parts that may reach Israel via an international mechanism, and it has been legally determined that we are justified to maintain our involvement in that international process. As far as our international voice is concerned, the United Nations will finally help determine the best solution, not a misinformed minority, and the UK will have our say alongside the other 192 member states. The only real complaint that the left has against our government is that they have refused to accuse Israel of genocide until the International Court of Justice make a ruling to that respect. As individual governments accusing other nations of atrocities without international backing can lead to international friction at the very least, it is likely that Labour are wise in this decision. No comparison has been made between Labour's handling of this situation and that by the Conservatives or the likely actions of Reform UK. It cannot be denied that Labour is dealing with this issue in a much more sensitive and ethical manner than either of the two main alternative governments have shown willing to do. It is not at all clear why the Green Party or other left-wing pro-Palestine groups are so insistent that more needs to be done regarding Gaza. There has been a picture painted, mostly through deliberate misunderstanding and even deception, of Labour somehow being subservient to Israel and dragging their feet over responding to Israel's extreme response to the October 7th, 2023 Hamas massacre and the taking of Israeli hostages. I have commented elsewhere on the deliberate misinterpretation of Keir Starmer's October 2023 statement that they have that right. But it must be according to international law, which was taken to mean that he supported Israel withholding water, energy and medical support from Gaza, while his invocation of international law made it mean the opposite. But there were also attacks by the Scottish Nationalist Party on whether Labour were requesting the right kind of ceasefire back in November 2023, and this long before Labour won a general election and were able to speak for Britain. The Scottish National Party's attacks were clearly directly connected with Labour, being that party's main electoral rival in Scotland, and it doesn't seem too big a step to link the Greens' similar attacks on Labour to the fact that Labour are their main rival for seats in the 2029 general election. The Greens have caught a small whiff of success in the polls, which seems to have stolen away some of their integrity. If this was likely to deliver them enough seats to beat Reform, it may be considered justifiable. But at present they are polling with a predicted maximum of 93 seats, which is far too low to threaten Reform in any way. While the genocide in Gaza is terrible, and we are doing all we can to bring it to an end, it is not occurring close to the UK in as much as to create a threat to our citizens, nor does it impact upon our economy or standard of living. And it is these things that a government is usually expected to deal with. However, instead, our police have had to cope with hundreds of alleged anti-genocide protesters committing crimes under the Terrorism Act in response to the designation as Terrorists of Palestine Action, a protest group with an aggressive criminal element. Due to misleading reportage by online left-leaning media, they believe that the government is responsible for this designation, when an act of designation can only be made or changed by parliamentary decision and not by the government, and they are trying to shame Labour for authoritarianism, when all they are doing is their job of upholding the law. These are organised gatherings for public law breaking, and it seems the only purpose is to falsely accuse Labour of authoritarianism. We have seen our cities disrupted by pro-Palestine marches, when our capacity to do anything about Israel's Gaza policy is non-existent. We have seen members of our Jewish communities attacked for no reason other than their ethnicity. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has been invited into Britain, apparently for no other reason but to make things difficult for our government. Who are our best hope of being lifted out of the grave that the Tories dug for us between 2010 and 2024? I know that many within the Green and other left-wing groups bear a deep grudge against Starmer and his Labour Party because of the 2020 purge. But if you have no other solution for fixing Britain or avoiding a far-right reform-led nightmare, then this deeply divisive apparent revenge drive is just extremely selfish and irresponsible. Can we not just step back and take the pressure off Labour in the face of a real danger to our nation's people and economy? A fragmented left and centre at this present time is very dangerous. If we are to continue the economic revival and positive reform of industry introduced by Labour, we need to be prepared to close ranks against the shared enemy that is fascism, in the shape of reform or a reform conservative pact. It is up to you. I am not asking you to trust Starmer, but things are changing in the party. The architects of the coup and the 2017 and 2019 betrayals are already gone, but Labour are in power and hopefully soon in more trustworthy hands. What is more important, ideological revenge, or ensuring that the everyday people of Britain have a more prosperous and more pleasant future?